Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. This is our live interview today with Miss Tiffany Brown of TWB Elite Consulting. I'm so excited to have her join. We're going to give folks a few minutes just to trickle in as they're able, get a couple more technology things squared away on our end, and we'll just be ready to go in a few seconds.
Sounds great.
Works there. Good deal. Great. And as we're giving folks a chance to join us, just some basic context around why we're doing these interviews. I guess I would start with that is here at Co-CreatED, our big thing is being a resource for school leaders and for teachers just to have better information when it comes to professional development training. So we all know PD is a big part of teachers' lives, for better or worse sometimes. And we want to make sure that the trainings that schools are selecting are based on a big portion of teacher voice and a really great wealth of information that helps those principals make the right decision. And so that brings us to today, where we have another guest in our interview series. Thank you so much for being here today, Tiffany.
Thank you for having me and the opportunity.
Absolutely. We always have such a good time and such good conversations. I know that everyone else will be eager to hear all of the awesome knowledge that you bring to the table. So I think we'll just go ahead and jump in, shall we?
Sure.
All right. So why don't we just start from ground zero? Give me your elevator pitch, your one-liner. So what's your name? What's your company? And what is it that you do?
Okay. My name is Tiffany W. Brown. I am your partner in education. I am the owner and or CEO and principal consultant of TWB, Tiffany Williams Brown, Elite Consulting LLC. I help education professionals grow their craft to positively impact student outcomes academically, behaviorally, and socially through professional development training, coaching, and mentoring.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So, with that expertise that you're bringing to the table, why don't we go back in time for a minute and tell us how you got from where you began to the work that you do now? So, oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we start something to fix a problem we faced or to solve a pain point we experienced. So, I would love to know if that's part of your journey and just kind of what led you from where you started to now.
Okay. Well, started off as a classroom teacher. My mother was an educator. She was a principal. And so I would hear many stories that she would come home and share. And then I
Yes.
got an opportunity to do a lot of sub work at her school at that time. And so it kind of just let me know that this was what I wanted to do. I do have a lot of family members who are also educators as well. So it's just kind of a family thing.
Yes, it's in your blood.
It's in my blood. And so I feel like I got great mentorship through her and just through my family. And I had a great principal. I taught for 6 years. And he was wonderful as well. And I got a lot of support. But even though I got a lot of support from the family end and from him, there were still times that I struggled as a teacher. That's just, part of it, that
Totally.
first year. Right.
I'm sure a lot of folks can relate to what you're saying right now.
Right. And so I always stated that if I ever had the opportunity to move outside of the classroom, that's not what I was looking to do at the time, but if I ever had that opportunity, I would really like to be able to help teachers be better. And
Yes.
so my principal always saw something in me as well. And so he had me be mentors to every teacher, every new teacher in our particular grade for those 6 years. That was, let me say 5 years, because that first year I was a new teacher. So I moved from that, and he was integral into growing us as leaders, teacher leaders. And so he, I moved from there and became an instructional coordinator and then an assistant principal, a principal of an alternative school that had, and I like to say this so that you can hear all of the background.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
it was an elementary alternative school, but I had several different umbrellas under that role. So I had three different programs on my campus: an accelerated program for overage students, over the expulsion for fourth and fifth grade. And then I had a special ed program that had students that were autistic or had some behavior challenges.
Gotcha.
And
I'm
then,
starting to hear glimpses into your behavior specialty as you're talking. So go on.
yes. And so then from that point on, I also had the Juvenile Detention Center under that umbrella, as well as they called it the Rutherford House, but it was a group home for students who were coming across the state because they'd had some sort of court. They're there because of court reasons, and so they had to come up north. And so, saying all that to say, I got a chance to just meet a whole lot of great people, students, teachers, and just bring all of that into my experience.
Right. It sounds like you also, I love hearing that you were well supported early on, that a principal saw something in you and chose to invest in you. And I can tell that you've done a lot of paying that forward throughout your journey as well.
Yes, I certainly hope I did. And so after that, I became a district RTI coach, and then worked as a special ed instructional specialist. And something was just, I'm not going to say missing. I enjoyed all of the work that I did, but I definitely like working on campus with students. And so something just told me to, maybe step out on some faith here. My mother and I would always talk about we were going to start our own consulting company, but she passed away in 2011. So I just kind of took that and stated, I said, I was going to do that, but after 30 years. And so I retired with only 23 and a half years in February of 2018. And that was just really a step out on faith. I started working for a consulting company that as a leadership and literacy consultant.
Okay.
And so I did that while I was trying to start my business. In the meantime, I also got certified as a certified John Maxwell coach and trainer, along with being a DISC trainer and consultant. So did a little bit of that. I believe in lifelong learning, and I continue to try to learn as much as I can.
Yes. Yeah, learning's our thing, right?
Right. So after that, COVID hit. So that company unfortunately went out of business. And so I've just been working as an independent contractor for various companies. I get a chance to do some observations for teacher candidates and give feedback to them. That's been very worthwhile for me.
Yes, I love that.
And also has just gone in and done what they call CLASS, is an acronym, but class observations and NIET for a third party. And then I also get a chance to do some, as a professional development consultant, some MTSS work. So I get to do that as well.
Got it. So you have had these opportunities to support teachers in so many different capacities. And it's just so clear what a heart you have for serving teachers. And as I was listening to those different pieces, kind of some threads that I'm noticing are around leadership. You've gotten a lot of extra training that you've invested in yourself and that others have helped invest in you around leadership development. I'm also hearing a little bit around literacy and a lot around behavior. And so would you say that those three are some of your specialties when it comes to working with a school, serving them, and helping their teachers grow?
Yes, all three of those. We know as educators, there are so many things that just kind of go, if I'm doing classroom management, that's going to filter into, could filter into some sort of, literacy or math content area, because if you can't, I don't want to say control children. I don't like to say control.
Of course.
But if you don't have great classroom management, it is going to interfere with your content. So we know all of that revolves.
Right.
So, yes, but those are my specialty areas, because I feel like that's where I've gotten most of my experience from.
Yes. And I know that you've talked to me too about just behavior. If we can't support students with developing their learning in that area, what's even the point of all the rest, right? There's no getting to the rest of it without supporting students in that way. And what are, I know teachers are really practical people. I know they've got a lot on their plates. What are some tips you have that are just like quick, I can implement this tomorrow when it comes to supporting students' behavior in the classroom and making sure they can get that classroom to a place that's really focused on learning?
Yes, I feel like it really starts with the connections and relationships that you build, and that becomes that foundation. Because
Yes.
if a child is not emotionally ready for whatever reason, or they're having some behavior difficulties, and when I say behavior, I'm not necessarily talking about a child that has a pencil and they're tapping, on the table, or they're
Right.
chewing gum. Those are low level behaviors that we could just, tell them not to do that and they won't do it. But there are times when children have a lot more that underlying causes, whether it's trauma of some kind or those ACEs that we talk about. And
Sure.
so as teachers, we have to know that we have to build those connections with our students, because once we build those connections, many times the academics and the behavior will follow. But if I what I was finding in as a working on a district level, or working for a district, as well as when I would do some consulting. And if I would go in to do some literacy consulting, a lot of times I couldn't even get to the strategies for the
Right.
instruction, because the classroom climate and the atmosphere was not conducive to learning. And so students' behavior kind of became the forefront. And I
Yes.
have shared with teachers many times that if we use or really focus on behavior all the time with the kids, that's what you're going to get.
Mm.
And that's what your classroom will eventually lead to. So we want to make, I like to call it, an academics first
Okay.
classroom environment, where we always want to think about those high expectations for the academics. Even though I may have some children who are struggling, we're gonna help you to get where you need to be, but I'm gonna have to challenge you. I can't, baby you. I can't say, oh, that's too hard for him, so I'm just gonna let him sit over in the corner and do
Right.
easy work while I'm working with the other kids. We have to ensure that we keep all children involved, um, inclusive, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can learn the confidence that it takes for them to say, "Yeah, my teacher believes in me.
Yes.
I may not be where everyone else is, but he believes in me, so I'm gonna do my best." So, I always like to think of it that way, but behavior is at the forefront. If we can't, get the behavior under control, then it's gonna, likely cause issues in the academic and instructional realm.
Sure. And it sounds like, keeping that bar set high is such a big part of that, right? They call it
Mhm.
what, the Pygmalion effect, like that kids will rise to the
Yep.
level of expectations we set.
Yes.
So we're not in the business of just discarding kids and saying, oh, you sit over there. We're in the
Right.
business of everyone is here to learn. And it's my mission to make sure we find a way to make that happen. I
Yes.
love that. And
Yes.
so I know that something that's a strong point for you when figuring out how to work through behavior challenges really comes down to the word community. And I know that is a big, important concept to you. So, talk to us a little bit around what does community mean to you and how is it basically the foundation of all the other things?
Well, thank you for that question. Community for me is like the heart of a classroom or the heart of the
Yes,
school. And I wore this T-shirt. You can see it's no teacher, because I think about when I first started teaching, and we were introduced to the Madeline Hunter method. Do you remember that?
I
Uh,
don't remember that one.
well, you might be a little younger than me.
Oh,
But that was, the lesson plan model that we used, and so one of the quotes that she would, use would be, "Students don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care." And I've
got it.
heard different variations of that. I've heard John Maxwell use it. He uses people instead of children. But, saying that to say, I can tell you all day, give the content to you, be able to teach give you the knowledge. But if it shows that I really don't care about your well-being or your success, then some of the, it's not necessarily all children. Some children are still going to rise to the occasion and do what they need to do. But you also have some that, okay, if I can't really connect with my teacher, and then I'm not connecting with too many people here at school, and I'm not connecting at
Right.
home, I'm lost. I don't feel included. And I feel like community, we have to make sure that people are seen, heard, and valued. You know,
Yes. Seen, heard, and valued. Yes.
and so I really feel like that is the backbone of it, and it's the foundation. And so I'd like to think about, when I'm thinking about a classroom community, we have academics, we have behavior, then we have social emotional learning. I like to think about the foundation starting with the social emotional learning, because if we can
Mm,
get that um, strong,
sure.
and we can help students to deal with those particular skills that they may not be getting elsewhere, but we can do that here at school, and they know that what's expected of them, and I'm modeling those expectations for them that I want to
Right.
see, then eventually their behavior is going to be where it needs to be. And then we can start seeing some increases in academic achievement. Will it
Right.
be perfect? No, there's nothing that's perfect. But there are just some things that you do kind of have to do on the front end in order to get that community to evolve to what you're wanting to do. I used to like to say sometimes, by the end of the school years, my kids are exactly the way I want them, but now I have to say bye and get a whole nother group.
Right. I know.
But the
Yeah.
bottom line is, I do feel like, it starts with the heart. We have to have that foundation. We want to make sure when students feel like they're seen, they're heard, and they're valued. That leads to trust. It leads to respect and the soft skills that we want to see them use with one another. I also like to say that community really it starts with a purpose, and I usually start a lot of when I'm going to say usually all of my PDs with a purpose. Um, let's going back thinking about what that why is. And so when you think about it, as a principal, when I'm leading a school, I'm leading a school of teacher leaders. And when I'm a teacher, I'm leading a classroom of of student leaders. And so, and leading a school or a classroom goes much more beyond than just managing and organizing it. It really
Yes.
goes about looking at how am I influencing the people that I work with each and every day, whether they're students or they're, faculty members. It's not just about focusing on compliance and managing, but about because when we do that, we sometimes lose that sense of purpose.
Right.
So you want to look at the why, look at the purpose, because
Yes.
that's going to lead you to your goals, and then your goals are going to lead you to the results that you're wanting to see.
That's right.
So, so within a PD, I believe that we help our educators to revisit that why. So we do a lot of that within the PD,
Mm-hmm.
tie everything right back to that. And then I like to say that I believe self-reflection leads to self-direction. And from that self-direction and that self-awareness leads to that growth and transformation that we want.
Yes.
So anyway, I hope that
Yes.
answered that question for you.
Oh, it definitely did. It definitely did. Some real like nuggets in there too that stuck with me around I've heard that quote before about children, you can't teach them till they care. What is it
Yeah.
again? Help me get it right. Help me get it right.
Students don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care.
Thank you. And
Uh-huh.
then when you tied that to how John Maxwell uses it he just substitutes kids or
Mhm.
students for people, it
Mhm.
just reminds me how we sometimes separate out the work that a teacher does from maybe the work that a school leader does. But really, ultimately, no matter which role you're in, you are leading.
Yes.
Teachers are leading a classroom. And I love how you talk so much about kind of that multiplier effect of when a teacher is leading that classroom, the goal is to lead a community who will then be leading themselves, our students leading their own selves. And, we've got school leaders leading a community of leaders as well if they're leading teachers. And so are there other commonalities that you see when you think about the work of a teacher as a classroom leader and the work of a principal as a school leader, and just kind of what those have in common and helping them see some common ground between each other and what we're doing here?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question because I normally like to say that there's a gap sometimes that I've noticed
Yes, and
between
why?
and why I don't know, because we're all on the same team
That's right.
about doing what's in the best interest of kids. So I've seen, it's like two different teams, and then it's like, okay, well, what do we need to do to bridge that gap? And I think sometimes it just might be misunderstandings. And
Sure.
because of the fact I've been on both ends, again, I'm not going to tell you that in any role I was in that I've done it perfectly, but I did do it to the best of my ability. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And so, if we can just get back to knowing that, we may not agree with what an administrator may do, but there are usually reasons why that administrator has to do something in a certain way, because it might be a mandate, it might be a guideline. And also, as administrators, we have to remember what it was like to be a teacher.
That's
And
right. Don't forget.
right. And so if you have that open door policy where, if a teacher does truly have a concern and you as the administrator, y'all can come to the table and just try to see if you can come to some commonalities. And
Right.
I've done that myself where I've had to say, I understand what you're saying, Miss So-and-so, but let me explain this to you. And sometimes I noticed that helped because once I explained it to them, and then they understood it wasn't because I was just out to, be mean. It was a reason this had to be done. Then it allowed the teacher to say, oh yes, and knowing that we're on that same page. But I always remind them that we're all on the same page. We're about doing what's in the best interest of kids. I'm going to support you in every way that I can. But we may not always agree, but we know that we're going to do what's best for children. Um,
Right.
I didn't mind teachers venting. But I will say that whenever they came to my office and we talked, I always like to say, okay, this is the issue. Let's see if we can come up with a solution. So when we move back, we can move, into having come up with something, not just
Mhm.
letting it fester.
That's
Um,
right. And that's
so,
some good advice for any of our school leaders watching, that when a teacher comes to you, thank them that they
mhm,
were willing to come communicate with you in that way, and make sure to establish some action steps moving forward, right? So that that feels productive, that
yes,
conversation was productive.
yes. Again,
And
they want to be seen and heard and
just
valued.
like you said before, seen, heard, and valued.
That's
We want our teachers to make students feel seen, heard, and valued. And we also need school leaders making our teachers feel seen, heard, and valued. So
yes.
thank you for that really good advice. I hope that our school leaders listening are able to take that one with them today. And I was going to say something else with that seen, heard, and valued thing. You got me with that one. It was so good. Oh, it was when you were talking about that example of the teacher coming to your office to talk with you and wanting the reason behind it. That really goes back to your other big thing about purpose and the
Mhm.
why. People are much more likely to follow our leadership when they see the purpose behind it and that we're all rallied around that same purpose together, right? And making that purpose clear solves a lot of our problems, doesn't it?
Right, because
Yes. So
it gets rid of those misunderstandings because I've been
it does.
honest with you and we've talked about it.
And we're both putting our eyes on this bigger picture that we care about.
Right, and there
Right.
was one thing that I did that I started as a coordinator. I saw a need a lot of times where teachers do want to come in and vent, and that's perfectly fine. But I just always would allow them to know that, there's a difference between venting and there's a difference between, negative comments and things that are not gonna serve us well.
Right.
So I started as a coordinator, but I did it as an assistant and as a principal, where I would intentionally meet with my newer teachers once a month for about an hour and a half after school. And we know, time is valuable, but I wanted them to know that I see you. I want to hear what's going on. If there's something that we can tackle, because we are like-minded, because we're with like-minded people who are starting off.
Yes.
And that helped me to know, because I was getting it from them what they actually needed help with. so that I can ensure that I was giving it to them. Because when you're at work and fires are, you're putting out fires, you're handling so many other things. It's not that you don't want to connect with your teachers. It's just that sometimes the time doesn't allow you to do that. So
Sure.
I felt like at that time also would be a time to connect with them as well.
That's right. Leading with listening being our first priority. I mean, if a school leader can prioritize that, they're winning, right? Just
Right.
hearing directly from teachers, that's going to keep everybody connected and feeling, like you said, seen, heard, and valued.
Yes.
So with this work that you're doing around, you've got some leadership coaching that you help school leaders with. You've got some teacher training programs that focus on community and that focus on behavior. And then you also have a digital community, I understand, that you're starting that helps teachers feel connected to each other and maybe not like such an island. Can you tell us
Right.
about that one a little bit?
Sure. So I have developed two, I call them our community circle, but
Okay,
one is going to be called, one is called our community circle teacher edition, and that's the one you're referring to.
got
And
it.
then there's another one called our community circle student edition. So I'll just, if you don't mind me, so I'll just quickly say about the student edition. The reason I call the student edition is because it's what we would do in the classroom. And so it
Okay,
talks about those three things I talked about earlier: academics, behavior, and social emotional learning and skills. So that one would be a training that could be done at, once we've determined, because of course we always want our administrators to be the ones to determine the needs assessment of what it is they're looking for, um,
yes.
because we want to tailor the PD to what teachers need. Every teacher doesn't need all the same.
Woo, preach on that one. Preach on that one.
And so it can be it could be a whole faculty study um, program that would come with training and coaching, or it could be a small amount of teachers. Could be that 0 to 5 year group of teachers that you may have that just need that additional support.
Right.
And then we target it just like we target students in the classroom and meet them where they are and give them help fill those gaps. That's the way that can be done. So I just wanted to
Yes.
kind of talk a little bit about that one.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but your process is so spot on. Like the way that you're describing, where do we start? We start by figuring out what the needs are. Like
Mhm.
any good teacher would. We
Right.
don't just teach at them. We
Right.
meet them where they are, figure out what that baseline is, right? And then the other piece that stood out to me that's another like good teacher practice that ties directly to professional learning is once we do establish that baseline, not every single person in the building has the same baseline. And
Right.
so being able to pull out your trainings and do a targeted group, maybe it's just our first year teachers that need it.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just our second grade team who's dealing with a specific issue. Like whatever it is, being able to tailor it to small groups. I love that about the programming you offer. So just wanted to interrupt and elevate that a bit because that is it's good teaching. It's just good teaching.
Well, thank you for that, Jen. And yes, I feel like once we tailor it, we figure out what we need, we're going to start with that why again.
Yes.
And a lot of that times that's going to help us with our mindset, because we know sometimes we have to do some mindset shifts.
Cool. Yeah, we do.
And then we expect our teachers to do with that gradual release model, where it's I do, we do, and you do. And so it would be, I teach or train, model it, then I come in, watch it in practice, help to get it implemented, and then keep following up to make sure that the process is going the way it should. It's
Yeah.
not like when I first started the sit and get, where you just went to workshops, you
Oof.
got the information, you had great intentions of doing something with it, but then stuff happens and you just file it away and never looked at it again until you were
Right.
cleaning out your filing cabinet.
And
So,
isn't that wild how we so often tell teachers not to teach that way, but all too
right.
often trainings go that way.
Yes,
So
that's
I love that with what you're doing, there's always a training component plus a coaching component.
yes,
You're not trying to have them sit and get. That is not what you're about.
right. I truly want to help and support. That is my goal.
And get hands on with it.
And get hands on with. That's right. And then the program that you were just talking about, the Our Community Circle teacher edition. This is a virtual online space. I call it a safe space where I want to bring educators from all over to join, but I wanted to start small first. And so I am targeting teachers. And I did say K-5 at the beginning, but I will say even if they're middle or high school teachers who have 0 to 5 years of experience. I'm targeting them because a lot of times, and we know that the research has shown, I've seen different statistics, but I know that one of the most recent ones I saw stated about 50% of teachers who start year one, within 5 years, they're looking for another career choice.
That
And
is such a staggering statistic. You're absolutely right. It's those early teachers, or teachers early in their career, I mean, that are just starting out between their first year through their 5th year. That's when we lose them. So I love that this community you're building is really targeting those teachers that need it most, those ones that are most at risk of leaving the field, and you're wrapping them with that support in that community to keep them engaged in this work. So
yes, we want them to continue to, they chose a profession that makes all other ones possible. So we want them to
hey,
continue to be in that. So within this community, it's really just about us learning from each other. You can come in. I call our members halos because it's our community circle. So I think about the halo.
okay.
And so within the community, there are different what we call spaces. So some spaces are complimentary, and then there are some that come with a membership, but it's not a, it's a, I like to say it's an ever evolving community. It's a work in progress because just like we tailor PD and
That's right.
like we tailor for our kids, this community is tailored to the needs of the members that are involved.
Right.
So we will be doing, I plan to do live Zooms so that we can get on and we can actually talk
Great.
with one another. If there are questions they can ask, there's chats where you can post something. It's open 24/7. So, if you're, up late one night and a question just pops in, you can, pop that question right into the community, and I will do my best, or somebody will get back to help answer the question. I don't want it to be something that, teachers say, oh, it's just something else to do.
Right.
And I will say it's something else, but it's something else that's going to help you in your growth and transformation. This is why it's being built. It's not just like a Facebook group where you just engage here or there. It's really going to have resources. There are online courses that are in there. I plan on doing monthly PDs that are tailored to the needs of what we are finding in the community. And just a whole wealth of things that can be done. And as I mentioned to you
Great.
about the spaces, I can create as many spaces as I want. So let's say I have a teacher who is a middle school teacher, and there are a few of them that want to kind of get together. Then that middle school group, I can just create them a space, and then
Gotcha.
we would just be in that space. Or what you mentioned earlier about the small group at school, I could come on campus and do on-site training and coaching, but then I also have that community where we can
Yes.
post anything that's pertaining to what work we're doing at the school. So it's just a lot of I think it's just really going to be a game changer for teachers who really just need additional support. Not to say you're not getting that the support from school, but I want to kind of bridge that gap, kind of
Right.
be that extension from what
Right.
you're getting from school.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this, but I do want to mention, I'm not trying to tell, principals how to, run their schools or that sort of thing. It's strictly me supporting teachers on best practices to help them be the best teacher they can be for their students.
Right. And what I always say about that is I am a lifelong educator. I always will be. It's in my bones. And our job as what I call educators outside the classroom or educators outside the school setting, our job is to be a support to those in it. Our job is to be a supplement to the work they're doing there. And that's what you're doing. You're not trying to replace anything. But then again, we don't know every teacher's situation. And if every teacher was in a supportive environment, we wouldn't see so many leaving the field in the first 5 years. So that's a reality too. So it's not a judgment, it's a support. And it's a facing of reality about what the data is showing us and a really practical way that you're addressing a problem we know exists. So if a teacher wants to engage in that work, how can they stay connected with you or inquire about joining that community?
I have, well, let me just say I have 2 websites.
Okay.
My first one is www.twbeliteconsulting.com.
Great.
Okay, that's the, so you go there, you can, find me there. My email is tiffany@twbeliteconsulting.com. And if you want to just take a look at the community, you could go to ourcommunitycircle.net. It will take you to a landing page. However, if you just, email me and say, Tiffany, I would just like to kind of just look at what's in it, because I do have a complimentary space that I offer to people.
That way they can try it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to, there are 2, I'm sorry, I should have been a little bit clear there. I have a space I call the lounge. And so the lounge is where anybody can come in as long as you get the link from me. But yes, I do have a free trial for the entire community as well.
Great.
So if, and it's a 14-day trial. So, and because it's teacher appreciation, I am, doing some different pricing, but I would like, if they're just truly interested and they reach out to me, I will give them that price. And
yes, we love a teacher appreciation special. Yes, send them that love. That's good. And hopefully, any teachers who are watching who are interested in joining that community, I would encourage them to seek the funding from their school to pay for it as well. I just always want to remind teachers that you're allowed to request funding for your own professional development. Don't forget. And that sometimes schools can send you to a community like that if it supports your professional growth. So
thank you for that. I didn't know that, but thank you for that.
I'm always trying to find a way to remind teachers to try not to go in their own pocket whenever possible, right?
Yeah.
So, and we love to see schools sending teachers to things that are as supportive as what you're offering. So I'll make sure to add any of those links into our show notes and your email address so that teachers can get in touch with you. And the time has flown by. It is already after time, and we're going to have to start wrapping up. Can you believe that?
Well, I had so much fun with you.
I know, you too. I always enjoy our conversations. Well, is there anything else as we close out that you're hoping folks take with them today? You've dropped so many gems around community, around leadership, around little ways to build community so that it supports more productive student behaviors. Just so much here. Is there anything else as we close out?
I just like to always tell teachers that, I know we always want to be the best teacher. And we see people down the hall and they say, oh, she's such a good teacher, blah, blah, blah. And we all feel that. But I want you to know that as long as you're being the best teacher for your students, that's what counts. That's really what counts. Just be the best teacher for your students.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you for leaving us with that word of encouragement. I hope everybody takes that with them as they go on to the rest of their week. And again, I'll include all of those ways to get in touch with you into the show notes. I'll make sure this interview is on your Co-CreatED profile so that when schools are looking for trainings, they'll see all of the amazing stuff you have to offer. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for learning more about Tiffany's awesome work. And we'll catch you at the next interview.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jen. Mwah.